Hello, 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 TM24 here, and we are back with some more Marvel Snap content. Now, if you are just now finding the channel, welcome. I hope you find this video entertaining and informative. We're talking about a new style of deck. Now, if you are a returning viewer, I really do appreciate your support. My llama here appreciates your support as well. And hey, this content is for you, it's for new, it's for everyone. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Today, well, it's not a new style of deck. Control has been around forever, but this is Kitty Control, so it's played pretty similar, but definitely a little bit different. There are some similar aspects to standard control decks, and we're gonna go through each of them. I used two different lists, and I've even got a few changes that I would make to both lists, and especially the second list that you'll see here in a couple of games. But let's talk about the cards in this first list. And then you'll see the difference when I switch to the second list here in, there's one more game after this one. So Kitty Control. Obviously, we're building around Kitty Pryde. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to play her as often as possible to get her powered up. Now, Spider-Ham just came out, and I can't lie, I'm loving him. So I'm sticking him in pretty much every deck, but I think his value also warrants that spot in pretty much every deck. He's taking away typically a big threat from your opponent, so I think Spider-Ham is kind of a natural fit. Now, in this particular version, we've got three 2-drops. We've got Angela, Daredevil, and Jeff. Angela kind of fits perfectly. We've got Kitty Pryde, who we're going to just continually play on her, buffing Angela up while still keeping that, those slots open. Daredevil as well, being a control deck, Daredevil giving us that information on 5 allows us to make the play that is going to help us win the game. So Daredevil is huge. And then I've talked about how much I love Jeff. You can play Jeff on Angela, still move him around, and there's just a ton of value from that. Next up are 3-drops. They're Green Goblin and Juggernaut. Now in the next list that I'm going to show you, I cut these two cards, but I think a case can definitely be made for both. So we'll talk about them. Green Goblin. I love Green Goblin as well. I think he's one of the better 3-drops simply because he takes up a slot on your opponent's side and, of course, the negative power. So it makes it tough for your opponent to compete in that lane at all if he comes down, and being only 3 costs, fairly cheap. Juggernaut, I was picturing more of maybe a turn 6 option. If you've locked down a lane with Professor X like we are here, you could play Juggernaut into Murder World, but to be honest with y'all, I just wasn't seeing the value out of Juggernaut that I would like, which is one of the reasons I ended up cutting him in the next list, which you'll see, like I said, in a couple games. Next up, we've got a 4-drop. We've got Shang-Chi. I think he is crucial to any control list. He's going to help you handle some of your opponent's big cards, and you'll see here, Shang-Chi is going to come in clutch for us, actually winning us this game. So definitely think Shang-Chi deserves a spot. And now another part of this control. Turn 5 is going to be a really big turn for us. So we've got Professor X, Spider-Man, and Gamora. Now, preferably, you're playing either Professor X or Spider-Man to lock down a lane before turn 6. Gamora, you can always play. You get her out there. She's a huge source of power. But I like to hold Gamora for turn 6 because it's a lot harder for your opponent to counter. In a lot of games, you're going to be behind like this, where you're winning one lane, but the other 2 you are down. And if that's the case, Gamora is going to on-reveal after, so it's better to kind of hold her. Now, Spider-Man, again, kind of a soft lock, so I like Professor X a little bit more in this list because it prevents any Doctor Dooms, things like that, getting to that location. Now, granted, Doctor Doom is a little bit weaker after the nerf, but still, if we can prevent any power from reaching that location, we're in a bit better shape. Now, we've talked about Gamora a little bit. I definitely think she is more of a turn 6 play. A lot of the times, if you're locked down one lane, you've already won. You guys are competing for another one. So you know where to play Gamora to make the most out of her on reveal. Now, our other card in our deck is Chavez. A 6/9, she provides that consistent draw. I love that from her. I think that's her best ability per se, is that she allows you to draw the cards that you'd kind of rather be drawing while still providing 9 power on turn 6 if you need it. So I really think that she's great in this list, making sure you get one of those control pieces before 5 so that you can play them on 5. So what's the goal here, right? We want to get a lane locked down on 5. Now, whether that's Professor X or Spider-Man, we're trying to fill that lane. You know, maybe it's a Green Goblin. Maybe we Juggernaut into a Professor X on turn 5. You know, Juggernaut 3, Green Goblin 4, Professor X 5, something like that, right? You want to win a lane. And then turn 5 is going to be ideally Gamora and then Kitty Pryde. So you've got Gamora, who's going to be a 5/12, and then Kitty Pryde, depending on how many times you played her, she could be 6, she could be 8, but she's going to be another huge source of power. This also allows you to potentially split that power and go after 2 lanes. Now, in the next list, we have another option to play next to Gamora, and actually, the next list also opens up a different kind of play line as well. So we'll see that in a second right after this game, but I will walk you through this one here. As you can see, we've got Jeff down. We haven't had a chance to get Kitty Pryde out, so it's a little bit difficult. But here, Green Goblin really comes through for us, right? He fills up that Titan lane, meaning we've won that lane. It's just a matter of making sure we've got enough power there and then winning the other locations. Angela is going to be perfect for that because we can play Spider-Ham, we can play Kitty Pryde on top of her, hopefully buffing her up enough that we don't have to worry too much about these other locations. So Spider-Ham comes down on top of Angela, and we're getting ready for turn 5. Now, we don't have Daredevil down, so this turn is a little bit risky. We've got Professor X in hand, and he's a 5/2, which is a little bit tough, but we can lock down the Wakandan Embassy and then move Jeff over there. Another big reason why I really like Jeff in this list, because he allows us to get to those locations that we otherwise wouldn't be able to. So we end up playing Professor X. We get a bit lucky they didn't play anything, but Professor X comes down. That allows us to move Jeff on over, and because Titan is reducing our 6 costs, we're able to get both Chavez and Kitty Pryde down onto that Titan lane, getting us that victory. They are going to have a solid play here that scares me at first, playing Blue Marvel, buffing up that Squirrel Girl and Ant-Man, but ultimately it's not going to be enough. We beat them by 1 in the Wakandan Embassy, and then it's an easy win in Titan, partially thanks to Green Goblin, and, you know, of course, Chavez coming back over the top there. Now, this is the second list that I played. Like I said, we cut Juggernaut, and we cut Green Goblin. And we replace those with Nightcrawler and Spider-Man. So the thinking here is, if we can get Nightcrawler or Jeff down, we can move them potentially on turn 5, and that allows our Spider-Man to be a 1 cost on 6. So what that means is we are now a little bit more free to play Gamora early. So we get our early power down, and then we have counter options in the form of Shang-Chi next to a Kitty Pryde and a Spider-Man to kind of lock up the rest of that game. So that's kind of the thought there. It opens up another route. Instead of saving Gamora strictly for 6, you can use Daredevil's ability to make sure that your Gamora hits. And then on 6, you could play Shang-Chi, Spider-Man, and Kitty Pryde. Or potentially it's Shang-Chi, you know, Spider-Man, you know, Spider-Ham, something like that. Whereas you've already got your big power down with Gamora. So that's kind of the thought. That's the change. Additionally, this makes it a lot cheaper because typically we're going to play a 5-drop on 5. So we want to have a little bit cheaper options early. If we can move a Jeff early or a Nightcrawler early, we can get Spider-Man down early as well. Meaning we'll have a lot easier time locking down a lane if we already have a 1/5 Spider-Man there. It just makes it a bit easier to secure that lane before 6, so that on 6, Gamora could still come down next to Kitty Pryde and take that other lane. Just having that 5 power already out there can definitely be huge. In the game here that we're playing, you can see we're playing against a junk deck. His name's Sabotage, and I think that fits perfectly. He's trying to sabotage our side of the board. And you can see here, on turn 5, we moved I think we moved Nightcrawler or Jeff, or maybe, well, it looks like Jeff can still move, so we moved Nightcrawler, which means our Spider-Man is now cheap. He's a 1/7. So we are free to go ahead and toss him into Camp Lee. They end up playing a sentry into that center lane, and we go ahead and we get that win by using Shang-Chi again. So that's pretty much exactly what we just talked about, except we didn't have Kitty Pryde to play. But you see how it works, where now you've got the option to play Kitty Pryde, to play Spider-Man, and to play Shang-Chi all on turn 6. Grant, with your Gamora already having her power down, or potentially you've locked them out with Spider-Man, it just gives you another option, and I like that. This game we start early. We get Spider-Ham down. We take out their Zola. Obviously, this looks like some sort of a destroy deck, and we pick up Kitty Pryde, which is going to be huge. We get Kitty Pryde and Jeff down. So we're in a really nice spot to make sure our Spider-Man is going to be cheap, and then our other Spider-Man we can use on turn 5 to lock them out and, secure this game. So they're obviously playing some sort of Thanos deck. We're seeing the stones. Wolverine comes through, so it's definitely a Thanos destroy type deck. Eye of Silence hurts us a little bit because Professor X cannot come down there, but Spider-Man is still an option. Here, it's easy. We're just playing Kitty Pryde. She doesn't cost anything, so we can just get her down and let her start to grow as we are planning our next couple turns. We already know we have a cheap Spider-Man, and we've got our other Spider-Man ready to lock them out. Additionally, we do have Gamora if we wanted to go, that other route of getting Gamora down on 5, or in this case, because of Elysium, down on 4. We have that option. So we pick up Angela here, which is actually a really nice pickup. Now it's just a matter of deciding where to put them. We don't want to play Angela somewhere where she, we can't get as much value out of her. The nice thing about this is we can fill up this whole lane, but because Jeff can move, because Kitty Pryde is going to bounce back to our hand, it's not really full. There's still 2 spots open, meaning that, it kind of lulls our opponent into a false sense of security that, this lane is over, but it's really not. Now we get to turn 5. We still got Kitty Pryde that is cheap. We pick up Professor X, and we have a Spider-Man as well. Now in this instance, we already got Jeff down, but we're a little wary of them putting power into the Bifrost, which is why we decide to go with Spider-Man over Professor X. Jeff could still get there, and we could potentially put more power into the Bifrost, but if they played something like a death there and we would have played Professor X, we would have lost that location. So our Spider-Man comes down, pretty much guaranteeing us the Bifrost. And now we have turn 6, and we can just go all in on Angela. Kitty Pryde at 8, Gamora coming through. All she's got to do is hit 1 card, and luckily, they play 2. Their Null comes down, obviously avoiding the Isle of Silence. They play just a couple of stones, but they aren't going to have enough to get it done, and Gamora comes through and wins it on 6. So, again, pretty much the perfect way that we are looking to play this deck. All right, so this is the list that I was just playing. I think this is probably one of the better versions right now, but I do realize some of these cards are a bit tough to have. Jeff is one of them. Spider-Ham, maybe not everyone has him right now, so those are definitely 2 that we could get rid of. Now, the idea can remain the same. Cards like Titania, you can definitely use next to a Gamora on turn 6, and 5 power is basically like playing that Spider-Man. If you're keeping Nightcrawler, then having Spider-Man having Spider-Man is still an option. You might want another card to move him. Iron Fist can definitely give you a little bit of flexibility, but there is another card that I really like. With a lot of these decks filling up fairly early, there's another 5-drop in the form of Spider-Woman that I feel is a solid inclusion as well. In this case, we aren't too worried about them already having a full lane, because she's going to come through and reduce all their power by 1. So those are a couple cards that you could kind of swap out. Additionally, maybe if you don't have Titania, another solid option, just a standard 1-drop, would be Iceman. I think most of these cards should be fairly accessible, and I really think this deck has some serious potential. I don't think it's fully fleshed out quite yet, but I think it can compete. So I'd love to know what you guys think. Are there any cards that you would change? anything that, you know, you think doesn't make sense or you would rather see in there instead, please feel free to put it in the comments and let me know. But, you know, the list that I was running at the end there is the one that I'm going to keep running for now until I figure out if maybe there's a better fit somewhere else. And if you've hung around till now, I really do appreciate you watching the video. I hope you found it entertaining and maybe you've got a new deck idea now. Additionally, if you haven't hit the like or subscribe button yet, now would be a really good time to do so. I'm going to continue to put out Marvel Snap content, so be on the lookout for that. But until next time, have some fun.